Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. My friends, today I want to talk to you about language. Language is one of the most important tools that any of us will ever use in our life. From language, words, the mouth, which is the delivery vessel for language, so to speak, springs forth life and death. It springs forth love or terror, springs forth hate or joy, springs forth so many different contrasting things. And language itself reflects just the infinite possibilities, or the seemingly infinite, because nothing is truly infinite, the seemingly infinite possibilities of human expression on display. Now, when language gets mixed up in politics, though, things become interesting. The beauty of the infinite tapestry of human expression quickly becomes a terror because politicians like to use words in a manner that is so slick that it only furthers their power or their political agenda as opposed to furthering the truth. In other words, they like to be irresponsible with their words, and this is precisely what my critique of the current president of the United States is. Now, inevitably, I'm going to get someone who says, "Oh, Mr. Watson, you understand that all presidents are like this. Where's your video about Trump? Where's your video about George Bush? Where's your video about Bill Clinton?" And my friends, I could make videos about all those people, but that's not relevant. The point here is I'm talking about Biden. Someone else does not have to do good for someone to do good or bad. Biden does not simply exist in contrast to his predecessors. Biden also can stand on his own as well. And people who try to play this really rhetorical trick, this tu quo quo, what about this person, what about this person? They're not interested in the truth. They're simply interested in shielding themselves from having to consider and reckon with what is right in front of them. Most of the time in life, what is right in front of you is going to be more important than what is 10 years on the line. You should think about the future, of course, but don't think about the past or the future. The past in this case, in the case of my detractors in this case, so much so that it blinds you to your present. Some people are stuck in the past. This is a different topic. That's a different topic. But the point is, Biden has not been responsible with his language quite recently. Over the course of this Russia-Ukraine debacle, I've noticed quite a few things. I've noticed a few things that are particularly concerning to me. Biden said, when he talked about his justification for sanctions against Putin, he said that he wanted to make sure the Russian people knew the terror that Putin brought onto them by feeling the effects of sanctions. Now think of it. Now think of that for a second. Imagine if someone walked up to your house and had a blowtorch and they just began destroying your door. And you came out and you said, why are you doing that for? And that person simply said, "I want you to know the terror that your neighbor is causing you because of his loud music." It makes no sense, does it? But that's exactly what Biden's doing. Because in this analogy, the Russian people are the neighbor. They're not even involved in Putin's stuff, but they're the neighbor. They're simply there by association. They're close to him, but they're not involved with his war, with his illicit activities, but they're being attacked because of his war and because of his illicit activities. And yet, a sitting president of the United States thinks this fundamental violation of natural justice, that is, what is mine and what is yours is thine, all that kind of stuff, that my rights should be protected, I should get what I deserve in proportion to what I did, all of that goes out the window when it comes to morally grandstanding about the actions of one person. But once again, a sitting president of the United States had the gall to say that. Can you see how this language, which again can be used to express so many different things and thus increase understanding, was then in that movement used to demean an entire group of people who had nothing to do with what's going on with the other guy? You see what I'm saying? There's many more instances of this happening. Biden has a knack for slipping up with gaffes. And I on this channel, I don't really think about his gaffes that much because I don't care. I think a lot of that's just like low-rate political content. But what matters more to me is when he's not gaffing and when he's actually saying something that's of substance, and which is rare. But what happened recently was that Joe Biden made a comment about World War III and why he won't do certain military actions because that would lead to World War III. Now, I understand many people will probably say that he's probably right, and perhaps he is. That's not the point. The point is here the use of language. To use the term World War III in a media environment where the term World War III is being speculated upon by pundit after pundit, person after person, it's causing markets to go up and down, it's causing people to panic. To use your pulpit as the strongest man on the earth, potentially, politically, to use that word is to then convey, by association with your name, legitimacy to that word. So if the President of the United States says World War III, that carries more weight than if Joe Schmo on Twitter says World War III. You see what I'm saying? Once again, the president has a responsibility, just like all of us do, to use our language responsibly. But Joe Biden consistently refuses to do that. Now, this is simply in public. How about in private? In private, it's even more interesting. In private, Joe Biden is known to insult people, or at least in the perception of privacy. When a reporter asked him about inflation earlier this year, here's what he said about that employer on a hot mic.
Inflation is a political liability ahead of the midterms?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Isn't that fascinating? Because he didn't know he was being recorded then, but that's what he actually thought about that employer. Now, even if you're saying things to a smaller number of people, if those people, such as the president's cabinet, work with different levels of government and they are involved in different kinds of functions of an entity that does a good majority of the work in running, not the country, but the government, then those words will ultimately permeate through their understanding of certain issues. This is why if the president gives someone advice or commands, it can cause an entire ripple effect throughout the entire government, because once again, it's the president of the United States. All of us should be responsible with our language, but especially the president should be responsible with our language, because it can cause, not only can it cause more disastrous things to happen than if someone like me were to say something, it also can set the wrong impression and the wrong standard as to what kind of language is acceptable. But responsibility is not something that is taken seriously by too many people anymore, it seems. Rather, instead of responsibility, it's the blame game. This has been happening for a very long time. But in politics, it's exemplified because in politics is a hostile sport. It's a combatant sport. In politics, you're trying to tear down your opponent. In politics, you're doing your very, very best to beat the other team so your agenda can meet out. So what's responsibility in that case? Responsibility in that case would be winning for your side, not necessarily saying or doing what is right, what is truthful, what is responsible. So how do we fix this? Well, I'm not sure we can fix Joe Biden's problem. But all of you cannot model Joe Biden's problem by simply being responsible in your own language. Let me give you a few ways how to do that. When you're referring to political ideologies, don't be too general. If you say, the left said this, specify. Because the left can mean anything from gun-toting Antifa protesters to, Vietnam War era pacifists like Yoko Ono. Those are two very different subsets of the left. They're both on the left, but those are the two very different subsets. So please specify. Number 2, talk with grace. Look, politics is already a very hostile game. It doesn't need more hostility. It doesn't need more anger. It doesn't need more rage. I speak with fire sometimes, but I still try to have grace in my heart. And by grace, I mean be generous enough to admit when other people may be wrong, but they're still able to make mistakes, and be generous enough to allow yourself to make mistakes in your knowledge. You get a fact wrong. You get a stat wrong. You get an argument wrong. It's not logically consistent. It's okay so long as you learn from that. And then number 3. So number 1, don't be too general. Specify. Number 2, talk with grace. And number 3, understand, and this kind of goes to number 2, but it's its own thing as well, the limits of your knowledge. Biden doesn't have no one has the knowledge, not even Biden with all his resources, to speculate about a colloquialism like World War III that has not happened and has been speculated upon since World War II ended. No one has the knowledge because no one really knows what that's going to look like. We think it's nuclear weapons, but if you look at the self-interest of nations, would it really look like that? We don't know. No one knows. We're simply using guesses to form a scenario that hasn't even happened yet. So once again, you have to accept that you are a limited creature in your knowledge. You don't know everything. You won't know everything. And there's a freedom in that. Because if you knew everything, you would have more responsibility. The entire weight of the world would be on your shoulders. But because you don't know everything, you simply have the responsibility to learn, revise, learn again, revise until you can get a better puzzle than you started out with. Always, the puzzle is always better when it's mostly complete, as opposed to when it's fully complete and you haven't started another one yet. When it's mostly complete, you have a good idea of what it is, but not the full idea. But when you get to that point where it's fully complete and you completed it with all of your hard work and effort and energy and humility, then you're going to have a much better feeling of satisfaction than if you went into there thinking what the puzzle was going to look like and then just made it like that. No, it's not about completing the puzzle. It's about the process that leads you to complete the puzzle. Think on it. My friends, I love you guys so much. If you love me, patreon.com/officialcwatson, PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com, or please like, share, subscribe to my channel, share this video, like this video. I love you guys so much, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.